All right, peeps. Today, what we're talking about is subtracting integers. I'm sorry I didn't put the title up there on this one. I had a lot of stuff to write on the board. We talked about adding integers in the last couple videos, you guys. Please make sure you guys already watched those videos and did those assignments. Also, so you guys know, the 6 weeks ends this Friday, which means I need all y'all's grades by Thursday, so I get with a grade book for you. All right, either way, so let's go ahead and get started with this, y'all. There's actually 5 different rules that you need for subtracting integers. What I suggest that you do, especially after I've gone over a rule, I would suggest that you guys write notes with this video. So watch me explain a rule, pause it, write down the notes that I took. I think this will help you guys a lot, especially for you guys at home that will be watching this video. Obviously, you can come to class, but class is more so you can ask me questions that you have, because I know it's kind of difficult to learn it during class, especially while I'm walking around the room teaching other people. So when we start off, y'all, we start off with one that you guys already know: a positive minus a positive. Minus a smaller positive. Y'all, when you have a positive number minus a smaller positive number, that's just basic subtraction. There you can see my questions. That's just basic subtraction though, y'all. So really, 13 minus 10 is 3. 26 minus 5 is 21. Positive minus a smaller positive, all you're doing is actually subtracting. You guys already know that. When you have a positive minus a bigger positive, things get a little bit tricky. A positive number like 25 minus 48, before now you've actually been taught that you cannot subtract those. Actually, you can. When you have a positive minus a bigger positive, your answer is going to be negative. But your subtraction happens like normal. So I'm actually going to take, even though this is 25 minus 48, I'm going to subtract like normal, 48 minus 25. 8 minus 5 is 3. 4 minus 2 is 2. Positive minus bigger positive is always negative. So this is going to give me a negative 23. The two rules for a positive minus a bigger positive. One is subtract. And y'all make sure when you subtract, when you do your subtraction, you do put the bigger number on top. Otherwise, you're not going to get an actual number or your math's not going to work out good when you try to do the other number on top. Step 2, when it's a positive minus a bigger positive, since we're taking away more than what we started with, we're always going to get a negative answer for this type of problem. So yeah, now would be a good time to pause it. If you are taking notes on this, which you should be, I think it'll definitely help you if you pause it. Make sure you copy my problem. See that I subtracted, even though it's 25 minus 48. I subtracted it like normal, but it's going to be a negative since this was my original problem. The next thing we're going to talk about is up at the top here, a positive minus a negative. Now, these are some of my favorite problems to do, honestly, because they're kind of weird. When you have a negative and a subtraction sign next to each other, those two things actually are going to combine and make addition. So these two negative signs are actually going to cancel each other out. So 7 minus negative 12 actually becomes 7 plus 12. The negative and the subtraction sign become 1 plus sign since they're right next to each other. So the first thing you actually do is change your problem. So we've changed the problem. Now I have a positive plus a positive, which is just adding. So the second step, after you have a positive plus a negative, a positive minus a negative, and you change the problem, is to add your two values. So 7 minus negative 12 becomes 7 plus 12, which we know is 19. Pause it there if you need to take those notes. I'll zoom it in a little bit. Positive minus negative. Step 1 is change the problem, and then you add. All right, let's go to this bottom one here. You have a negative minus a positive. So a negative minus a positive is kind of weird. It's definitely easier to see on the number line. I'll draw a little number line right here. Let's say that this is -5, -6, -7, -8, -9, -10, -11, -12, -13, -14 right here. So y'all, when you subtract on a number line, you're actually going to the left. You're getting smaller, right? So it's kind of confusing if I say I have -5 minus 4. Because a lot of people think, oh, that should give you -1, right? 5 minus 4 is 1. That makes sense. But when you have a negative minus a positive number, you actually have to think about it as starting at -5 and subtracting 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, which puts me right here before -10, which would give me -9. So y'all, another way I tell people to think about it is if you start off with something bad, you're at -5, and then subtract. You take away a positive. You take away something good. Had something bad, then you take away something good, so your day should get worse. So if I'm at -5 and I take away something good, now I'm at -9, which should hopefully make sense. That's worse than -5. The actual rules I give for a negative minus a positive, you need to actually add those two values. 5 plus 4 is 9. So you're adding these values and make sure that it is always negative. Yeah, I know this is a lot of notes. Please make sure you're writing all this stuff, especially on this last one. This last one is the most difficult one that we're going to talk about this year. Move my computer. When you have a negative minus a negative, there's actually 3 steps that you need. Hopefully you guys see that we have this little negative and subtraction sign next to each other again. So same thing, y'all. If you have negative subtraction sign together, that becomes a plus sign. So my first step, I'm actually going to change the problem. And y'all, that should sound familiar to you because that's actually the same thing we did up here when we had a positive minus a negative. We changed the problem because we had these 2 signs next to each other. So I'm going to change this problem first. Now it becomes -30. You still keep the negative sign in front of the 30 because there's no 2 signs next to each other. These 2 signs are next to each other here, so that becomes a plus. Since the negative sign combined, you do not have a negative sign in front of the 16 anymore, so now you just have -30 plus 16. So the reason this has 3 steps, y'all, is because now we actually have a different type of problem. Since we changed it now, we have a negative plus a positive. So we actually got to go back to that integer rule for a negative plus a positive. Y'all, we talked about it the other day in class. Y'all remember this one? See if you have more positive or negatives and subtract. That's the same thing we're going to do here because now we have negatives and positives. So step 2 is just like adding positive and negatives. See if you have more positive or negative. And then that last step is going to be exactly the same as it was when you add or subtract positive and negatives, or when you add positive and negatives. That last step is for you to subtract. Y'all, please make sure you go through this entire video. If there's any notes that you need to see again, rewind it, pause it. Please write them down on your paper, y'all. This will be useful to you guys, especially while you're working through the assignment in class today. We will be doing more of this later on in the week, y'all. Also, we're going to do some modeling with these integer values as well later on in the week. So, y'all, the better you understand these equations and these skills, the easier that will be for you. All right, y'all, message me if you have any questions.